encompassed in all those particular sectors. Just a gist of what we are doing. I would love to inform those who have joined that more our discussions are going to be like a Q&A. Discussion is going to be like a Q&A session, of which is tailored through 3 areas. And now that Betty Adera is the only female that we have as the panelist, I think I'm going to hand over the discussion that is going to be led by the Secretary General, as I will pick on the one for Daniel. Sorry? Somebody's talking. Okay, I'm saying the Secretary General is now going to pick on some of the questions we thought would direct this particular session to be fruitful, and then from it, Betty Adera will also have a made regard to the questions that have been given to her. I have a problem with my network. Sorry, I know I'm like fluctuating. So over to you, Sec General, please. Felix, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, I said you are supposed to take us through the first panelist, some of the questions that we thought are going to be fruitful for this particular meeting.
Oh, thank you very much. Okay, before I start, allow me confirm if Madam Betty Adera is with us and listening.
Yes, I'm here. I've been here from the beginning.
Thank you very much. Now, maybe my first question to you is that being someone in the social field, and when I talk of that, I'm referring to the Betty Adera Foundation. My first question to you is that do you think youth involvement and participation in community organizations, especially in Luo Nyanza, now that we are doing this as Homa Bay County Youth Network, is effective enough to enable them initiate and drive their own development?
Thank you for that question, Mr. Secretary. And I think it's one of those fundamental questions that we need to get to understand correctly before we can delve into understanding what it is that we can do to make things better. But perhaps to start us off, I may want to say that we may need to have a clear definition of what we mean by community organization. What is that? Because nowadays, even a church group is a community organization. You know, a parent-teacher club can be a community organization. You know, block or neighborhood associations or chamas or occupational groups and all that can be community, community organizations. So I want to answer your question with reference to the fact that when we say community organizations, we mean all the informal and also all the formal grassroots level, community, household level type of organizations that encompass, everybody. Now, to respond to your question on whether do I think that youth involvement and youth participation, in community organizations, especially in Luo Nyanza, is effective enough to enable, initiate, and drive their own development, my answer is actually yes and no, depending on what type of group you're talking about. Take, for example, a community organization of Chama women. There are women who go to the same church, or women who live in the same neighborhood, or women who do the same type of business. So of course the group is homogeneous to the women. And this could be women who are much older, who would be like mothers, of young people. So would the young people have a space in such a community group? I don't think so. So depending on the nature of the group and the reason why this group was actually created, may feel, that they belong. Remember that some of these community organizations and activities have been there for so long and have actually led or given back to national movements, such as SACCOs or microfinance groups or movements, or even the SME movement in Kenya. They started from somewhere, and they started from, the community level, household level type of engagements of people. Now, young people came on board much, much later. And now, even more so from Nyanza province, you find that most young people for the longest time ever have never felt that community organizations are their space. Because if it's an organization of church people, of parents and teachers, of people who are much older than them, then they would be like, no, that's not our space, and we would be swallowed up, in that kind of a group. But we have seen more and more youth-led, organized groups, coming up in sports, coming up based on various, vocational ventures, that they do. But I want to think that there's more that needs to be done, because even a youth-led organization that is formed at grassroots level would still be struggling in terms of identity, would still be struggling with branding, would still be struggling with how to even reach and impact other young people, better and more, and how to expand, their brand. So I believe that this is one way that our young people, especially from Luo Nyanza, can get into the mainstream development spaces when they get into opportunities, to do little things at their community level for themselves, and also for young people, for other young people like them. So with more awareness on the need for youth development and the youth themselves coming out, to stand up for themselves and for others, a lot more still needs to be done, but a lot more can still be achieved.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that. Now, for these settings, so then in the social settings to be established, there must be some of the factors maybe that that are influential to the youth or to the young people, to the engagement of such settings. Can you share with us maybe some of the factors influencing youth involvement and participation in such organizations?
Well, a number of factors can influence young people positively or negatively, insofar as influencing their involvement and meaningful participation in community organizations. And when I say meaningful participation, I'm referring to engagement and presence, that can make the young people move forward in terms of their agenda, rather than just be counted. There are so many community spaces or community organizations that say, hey, we are doing youth work, we are engaging the youth, but what really are they doing? You find that they gather young people, in a room or in a hall, and then they just count them, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh yes, we had 10 youth and they participated. But did they? Is that the kind of participation we're talking about? We're talking about participation that can actually make the voice of the young person heard. We are talking about involvement in a sense that will ensure that all young people are represented, and even the ones who are in places that are hardest to reach, and including those who you would easily ignore, like those who are living with special needs and all that, would really be included and involved in community work. Now, some of the factors from the top of my head, that can influence young people's involvement and participation in community organization, first of all, is like the level of education. Okay, now like you guys, Yeah, you've come up together and brought up the Homa Bay County Youth Network or Youth Association. Why? Probably it's because your level of education is higher than a regular young person who's just sitting, you know, in the village. So there's evidence that suggests that the higher the level of education, the higher the level of involvement and empowerment, you know, for participation in community development initiatives. That is when you'd have young people saying, who have a considerable level of education, coming up and say, hey, in our community, we are X number of young people, we are the majority, we are seeing 1, 2, 3, 4 are the issues that eat us as young people. Can we come together and just start talking about it, even before making any formal registration? So level of education counts. Now, another factor would be access to information and awareness, you know, on what's going on. And this would also contribute significantly to promoting youth participation by enhancing a sense of inclusion. You appeared, you showed up there because you had. You showed up for that particular meeting or event because you were aware about it. How many young people are out there physically present in these spaces, but they had no idea. Nobody told them. Nobody deliberately reached out to them with information and create awareness to them on a need or on an event, you know, that was youth related or youth focused, that then they would have participated in. So access to information is also important. Another crucial factor would be the social cultural perspectives. You know, this really influences a lot of youth participation in community development initiatives. For instance, peer pressure. All right. If you find young people, you know, together and they feel one community organization more than another, they are more likely to influence each other towards a particular one and not another. And when they are there, there's something that will attract them to that space and will make them feel that this is our space as young people. And then let us, you know, let us contribute, let us participate in whatever is happening. There are other cultural perspectives, you know, that also negatively influence the level of participation of youth. For instance, if it is a community initiative, you know, that has a good number of adults, you know, people who are much older than the youth themselves, they might feel that, no, these youth they're not noisemakers, these youth are trouble, you know, so we don't want them, we can't take them seriously, what can they say, you know, to us and all that. So some of these perspectives, when a young person feels like his or her voice, you know, doesn't matter, you know, he or she is not likely to be motivated to participate in such a community venture. For others, there's the need of parental approval and motivation, you know, for them to be pushed to participate in such, you know, events. You can get, in some cases, a parent can tell you, nisikukute pale, let me not find you going to that particular youth group, or others encouraging, you know, young people to go. So all these sociocultural, you know, things can actually influence young people's participation. And a good one, like the gender-related duty associated with that particular community initiative. So if it's a community initiative that's mostly women and they're older women, a young person wouldn't feel like they want to be part of it. If you're talking about a community initiative that is going to the hospital to clean it up or to wash the elderly, the young person might feel those are tasks that should be done like by the female gender and all that. So sociocultural perspectives actually, you know, do influence. But second last, I would say also, another factor that influences is the youths themselves, their personal characteristics, such as age, gender, marital status, and educational level, as I had already talked about. You know, so the older you are, the more likely you are to align with other older youth. The younger you are, if you're a youth who's 16 or 17, you might want to align with activities or community ventures that are more sensitive to youth, yes, but, you know, younger ones. Same to if you're a male youth, your female youth. So some of these things, you know, contribute. You're looking at marital status. Some youth might say, I'm a young person, yes, but I have a family, I'm married. I'm a young person, but I am not have married or have a family. So you'd find that the personal characteristics might also make preferences for that. Back to you.
Felix, are you there?
Yes, Amir, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Betty Adera, for that wonderful response. Now, uh, we have understood so far that what community organizations really are, factors that influence the young people's involvement and effective participation in such settings. And I think we will really appreciate if you take us through some of the major factors that may prevent effective involvement and participation of youth in such settings.
I will perhaps repeat a couple that I've already said, like for instance, lack of communication and awareness of opportunities for engagement can be a factor that can, become a barrier or prevent young people from engaging and participating in community organizations. Now, another factor can also be from the community organizations themselves. You can find that in a given village, there can be 3, 4, or 5 such community organizations coming up, and all of them needing the presence and participation of youthful participants. So you find that there's almost like a scramble, and petition of young people in a particular area to attend all these events. So a young person might say, so niende, I go to which one and I leave out which one. So for that, you find that some young people might say, no, I can only go to one and not another. Now, there are also social skills that perhaps are often lacking among young people from grassroots level, and the fear of speaking up. So some of them tell themselves that, why am I going to go there? Why should I go there? And when I go there, I'm not confident enough to speak up. I fear that my voice will not be heard, or I fear that whatever I have to say will not be taken into consideration. So that fear of speaking out on perspective of young people can also be a preventive factor. Now, lack of diversity and adultism. Adultism here is just like what I said earlier, coupled with systemic mistreatment of young people simply because they're young. So you get into a room and there are all these other older people who feel that sasa wewe mtoto utatuambia nini. So young people feel that, one, there's lack of diversity, there's lack of inclusion, their voices won't be heard, and such community spaces they don't see as if it is their space, so they'd rather not go even if they know about such an event. And also, to add on that, another problem is often young people are viewed to be a problem, rather than an asset. Wanaongea too much, wanajifanya too much, they think they know too much, they think and not many adults, older people would be appreciative of that. So just the gap of missing the point that actually young people are not a problem. They are actually a big asset if put together and harnessed, the right way. Of course, lack of resources in terms of time or even money. If it's a place that a young person needs to spend money on a boda boda or a bus or a matatu to go to, and the young person doesn't have money, of course, that will be a barrier for them to attend such. And then also lack of interesting programs. Most programs that are designed at grassroots level often are done so without participation of young people. So it is a program that suits kids, a program that suits the old people. And the young people who sit in between are going nowhere. It's like the programs there are not interesting to them and don't make sense to them. And the minute they're not motivated because of the content of what's discussed there, young people are most likely not to go. Of course, another issue could be lack of knowledge about the programs and awareness. So if you don't know, how can you go to what you don't know? And then also, most community organizations are often uncertain of the role or impact of young people themselves, in their efforts to do community work. They hardly pause to ask the question, what can the young people contribute to this thing that we are trying to do, to this community problem we are trying to solve? So lastly, I think I can also say that young people are transient just because of their youthful nature. They're always moving around, in some cases participating in too many things, having also too many things that they need to do themselves, with their lives, having unpredictable, schedules. So sometimes fitting all that into participating in community organizations events may be tricky, and then that may result to them feeling or actually being excluded.
Thank you. And in understanding of factors that influence youth involvement and participation, and factors that prevent the same, do you think the government has done enough to promote youth involvement and participation in community action?
The whole issue of youth engagement is a global issue, is a global challenge to many economies, and Kenya is one of them. I think since independence, the government of Kenya, now we even have counties, are yet to really get it, in terms of what to do with young people, or better still, how to meaningfully, engage them on tasks and activities and ventures that can be good for them, that can be good for community, that can also be good for the country, and the region at large. I want to say that the government has done quite a lot and continues to do, and this is my personal opinion, by placing emphasis on youth empowerment in general. But of course, there's a lot more that could still be done, and especially if corruption is fought the right way and eliminated, you'd find that then there would be more resources at hand to do more work to continue to bring our young people up. The government is actually deliberate about doing things for young people, with young people. We are beginning to see every other day they're getting better at it. We are seeing more youthful people, more youthful officers being appointed to the departments, that concern young people. The extent to which they actually achieve the goals set for them is another story, but is the government deliberate? I'm thinking we are beginning to see more and more appreciation of the fact that the government is saying, hey, we have a youth bulge, and except we put our money where our mouth is insofar as young people are concerned, then we're going to have a problem. Even just the last budget that was read, I think just a month or two ago, we are beginning to see like huge amounts of money is being put aside, for youth-related things. We also know about the AGPO. Young people are part of the special interest group, that has been put in place, by the government for more attention, to pay more attention, to young people. But I want to believe that the government, both national, county, needs to do more at engaging young people themselves, hearing their views, hearing their thoughts and ideas on how they can even be better helped. The government and other stakeholders, I believe, should work more together in creating awareness and campaign, like on technical skills and knowledge of the young people, of which then the young people would be able to cascade that down to ensure that they're achieving meaningful community action with measurable evidence, at that level. And then also, again, back to government and all other stakeholders, including private sector, should work to, and civil society should work together in creating like information more accessible, to young people, environment more palatable, to young people, more friendly, and encourages, the transparent inclusion of young people in their spaces. And lastly, I think the government should also, figure out ways in which the adult, the older government officials are more respectful and believing of the capabilities, of young people and their tenacity, and tap those to provide significant contributions for the young people at present, but also to cascade that down to the communities where they live and reside. So I feel the government has done a lot. The government continues to do a lot, but the government there's still a lot to be done. And for me, I think government needs to bring to the forefront, young people do more of that, so that they hear of these ideas from young people themselves in terms of how they want to be engaged.
The government has done a lot, continues to do, and there is still much to be done to encourage youth involvement and participation in such settings. Now, you mentioned lack of resources as a barrier. And as a network, we have also identified the issue of resource mobilization as one of the biggest challenges faced by youth-led community organizations. What can you say about this?
Actually, this is one of the greatest challenges faced by youth-led, youth-serving organizations, as well as women-led, women-serving organizations. And what like we are doing at our foundation, probably post-COVID, we started, but then COVID made us to stop for a little, is to figure out ways in which we can provide continuous capacity enhancement to upcoming youth-led, women-led civil society organizations at grassroots level to get resources. Everything you want to do at community level is gonna take a resource. It's gonna take time as a resource. It's gonna take a human being, to do it as a resource. It's gonna cost money. And you find that the community, the civil society world, especially at the grassroots level, is so brutal. That without money, you get so many brilliant ideas just sitting there because of lack of knowledge or lack of capacity and innovativeness in terms of strategy for fundraising on how to get funds, especially money, like financial resources to get the work done. So I would also say that perhaps the Homa Bay County Youth Network may need to just set another webinar just to talk about resource mobilization, because there's a lot, to be covered. But yes, I agree with you that this is one of the greatest challenges, but a lot still can be done to get grassroots organizations lift off the ground and build a profile and just move forward, from getting like 100,000 type of funding to getting millions, because it is possible. So in terms of my advice on how to tackle this, the organizations at grassroots level, however small, however basic, need to have a strategy, for fundraising, and they need to focus on their current activities and communicate that clearly. Who are you? What did you set yourself to do? And what are the priorities that you have for this year or for this month or for this half of the year? Community organizations, also youth-led, women-led, should get to a process where they understand their own strengths and build on that, weaknesses and do something about that, opportunities and tap those to broaden their resource base. And when I say resource, I'm not only referring to money, financial, but I'm also referring to human and capacity, type of resourcing. Such organizations need to start up and put their house in order by formal registration, have a board, look at who your human resources are, look at who your volunteers are, have a physical address, even if it's your home, that's a physical address, and just think about how to make yourself formal, because no one is going to give you money out there if you cannot prove that you are formally, legally, existing as an entity. Another thing I would advise is for such upcoming organizations to have a mentor or mentors who can be human beings, or they can be organizations. For instance, Betty Adeda Foundation can be a mentor to the Homa Bay County, Youth Network. For what? For purposes of just hand-holding, for purposes of opening doors, for purposes of enhancing visibility, for purposes of collaboration, networking, and partnership with potential donors. Such organizations also need to think about visibility and building their brand. And now that, for instance, Homa Bay County Youth Network is about young people, you guys are so vibrant, like on social media, do something small, make all the noise you can about it on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, on all those platforms. Do short clips and start building a profile, so that if I want to say, I want to put my 50,000 in your organization, I can just go and look at your history. What is it that you've been up to for the last 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, or whatever. There's also need for continuous capacity building, on proposal writing, on networking, on persuasion, on negotiation skills, because these are skills that you will need as you move forward with your journey, of resource mobilizing. Keep your records, quantify them in financial terms. If you have an event and Coca-Cola comes in and just gives you soda, quantify that in terms of financial terms, so that when I come asking you who has funded you before, you can clearly demonstrate that while Safaricom didn't give you while Coca-Cola didn't give you cash, they gave you, in kind, worth, X amount of shillings, X amount of dollars. And that is how, an upcoming young youth-led, youth-serving organization, would start. And then Google is also your friend. Make Google your friend, There's a whole world of donors out there who are ready and willing to fund start-up, organizations, ready and willing to fund, small grants like over 100,000, 500,000, the small ones, and then you start from there and build, build a profile. So you need to access financial support from other organizations also, and foundations, and tap into the private sector social response, CSR ventures. There's a lot of it out there, and I know of so many private sector organizations who their CSR time has arrived, for the year, and they have no one, to give that money to, or no one to do an event with. And then just do a small little brochure and keep knocking on doors, keep making calls, keep writing emails, and within no minute your name will be out there, and some money will follow your name as well.
That's a wonderful one. Now, based on your experience from the Betty Adera Foundation and your engagement with the youth and women, what can be your motivation to both youth and women?
My motivation is that if you're a young person out there, no one is going to do you apart from you. If you're a woman out there, no one is going to do you apart from you. So young people must come out, form groups, form coalitions, start with themselves, reach out to their own, and then subsequently reach out to everyone else. Secondly, you need to continue doing what it is that you set out to do, because you cannot be perfect if you don't keep doing. You cannot learn without doing. So continue to participate in your own community events, continue to participate in community events of other, other youth-led, youth-serving organizations for purposes of learning. Third, I think start your journey and keep going. Never wait for money in a bank account for you to do something. The network is already formed. Maybe you just have, a registration. Maybe you just have a bank account, but it has nothing, in it. That's okay. That is the way to go. Just keep going. Help will find you on the way. There's never help that finds anyone who's sitting in the houses and waiting. You have to take that action. You have to go out there, do whatever it is you can, whatever you can with what you've got. Help will find you, on the way. Youths are so many out there in terms of numbers. Young people in Kenya, have the numbers. So form networks like the ones you have done. Reach out to other networks like you, youth-led or youth-serving, within your region, in the Nyanza region, but also venture out. Partner with a youth network organization in Central, in the coast, in up north, in Eastern, because that way you'll be forming a more powerful base, because you have the numbers, but you're building on each other's strengths and learning from each other's weaknesses. Be well-meaning for each other. Youth, you need to be out there for youth. Remove this story of competition. Remove this story of who's taking glory for what. Just be out there for each other, and everyone pick your piece of the pie and just run with it and do your best. Lastly, secure youth-adult relationships for mentorship and growth. Look for an adult. There can be a bunch of human beings who are more experienced than you. There can be a bunch of organizations like you or more experienced than you, because remember, that thing that you want to do as a youth network, you're not the first one to do it. There's somebody or a bunch of people who have walked down that road, have learned the lessons, and there's always a lot of win-win, attributes if youth and adults secure meaningful relationships for mentorship and growth. And lastly, document and share your best practices. Even if you just went to one household and gave an old mama or a young person living with disability unga ya gorogoro mbili, that's enough, for a day. If that's what you can do, what lesson have you learned from it in terms of the way you planned, the way you actually did it? Document that. Always ensure you write things up, because a day will come when a donor will knock your door, and the only language donors understand is show us your documentation in terms of what you have been doing. Share your best practices. What has worked for you, share it on social media and everywhere. Remember, another youth-serving or youth-led organization like you could be struggling with something like that, and you might just have as well, made their day or taught them something that they did not know.
Well, thank you very much, Madam. I can see our participants. Okay, they have a lot of questions for you. My advice to them is that as we welcome the next speaker, let us just write the. Okay, let us just hold on with the questions. There is going to be time for questions, but we can also write them in form of a message so that Madam Betty can also see them as she prepares to answer them maybe at a later time. Before I thank you very much, Madam Betty, for that presentation. Before I invite the next speaker, allow me just remind the participants that this meeting is supported by Live Your Dream. I'm glad that the CEO of Live Your Dream is part of us. He's one of the speakers. That is Mr. Otieno Paul Peter. We are also live on YouTube. There is a link at the chat panel. So let us keep sharing the link in various quarters for other youths who may also need this information. Back over to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you so much. I believe you can hear me. Can somebody hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you so much. Betty, that was powerful. Help will find you on the way.
Thank you.
That was very powerful. Allow me to recognize the presence of Matthews Owili, the one in charge of Civic Engagement Alliance under ICAD. Matthews, if you can hear me, just say hi.
Hi, members. Nice to have you and hear you while I'm here. God bless you.
Thank you so much, Matthews, for joining. I also saw Richard Otira. Richard Otira is with AFC International. Richard, just say hi wherever you are. Richard cannot hear us. Now, Daniel, I know you are keeping safe and you are fine. As I can see, you're lovely. Now, over to you, Daniel. As a young person and chair to Langata Youth Network, a Pan-Africanist, and also a political commentator. Now, with the creating spaces for the youth. Now, how does politics affect the existing social youth organizations? Over to you.
Well, thanks, Jose. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yeah. That was a wonderful presentation from the previous panel. I actually tuned and listened because much of social issues are impacting more also on political, political issues as well. So there is that the intersectionality, the link between social and political, matters. Well, I'll try to be brief, and I think for us, like my colleague has put it as well, that the formation of social organization groups are quite important because social organization group and community groupings are actually the root, the link, and the grassroots organization are very important when it comes to influencing the political spheres. I'm trying to say that in terms of political mobilization, in terms of, resourcing, in terms of, trying to educate, the communities, then the social organizations are very critical in influencing political decisions. The other way we could actually also look at it is in terms of all political decisions that are made at a ward level, at a constituency level, at a county level, and at a national level, greatly impact on the operations of the social organization grouping, which are in the social organization setup. So this is why it's very critical for formations like Homa Bay County Youth Network or constituency or women mobilization groups to participate, because their participation is very critical towards influencing political decision. Even the general political outcome defines the nature of the social political setup. But before that, George, I wanted, it could be very, critical that the Homa Bay County Youth Network talks about political participation, while members of the Homa Bay County Youth Network, for example, if I ask how many who their women representative is, okay, I would begin also to ask how many knows the closest political leader that is even the member of county assembly, which is closer to them. And I would even go further and inquire from the good members of the Homa Bay County Youth Network, if at all we would say that your chairman, for example, has decided to throw his bid to campaign for a political position in 2022 on an independent ticket versus somebody who is well money oiled coming from ODM, for example, how many people from your own network would actually have political sobriety to say this has been our chairman and therefore we are politically motivated so that we support him. So the interlink between the strength of social organization, grassroots organization, youth wings and women wings, in terms of defining and deciding the political outcome. For example, of a county or a constituency, we cannot really underestimate, George.
Okay, thank you. Now, Richard, according to our political setting, what value do you think the youth acquire from the political environment? And how does their participation affect their political learning?
Did you mention Richard or Daniel?
Oh, Daniel, sorry.
Let me see it from the other way, George. Can I be very specific in Homa Bay County or in Luo Nyanza, and also the question that you asked Betty as well? I want to take you back to our historical, political, landscape, political history. All over long, young people and strong and potential women political leaders have really find it difficult to navigate through a political landscape because it's actually politically polarized, and our people have learned, and this is the political, what we call political socialization or political learning or bestowment of political values to young people, in a sense that they have not, their beliefs and values have not gone beyond. Certain political parties have not given an opportunity for certain political ideologies that is separate or exclusive from what they have been accustomed to. I always determine to ask each and every time, and the question that I've asked before when I was beginning this conversation, the values that we young political leaders from Luo Nyanza, and this is a conversation I've had with many of you, is that could we learn that in politics is like going out to fish or going out to hunt. So in a house that we call Luo Nyanza or Nyanza province, for example, if we have one of us or many of us, including youth, women, ODM, independent candidates, Amani National Congress, should be asking our people is that all these people are out hunting. So any one of them who becomes successful brings back the meat at home, so that anybody appreciate that we do not go politically hungry for years. So it is my philosophy, it is my values that what we really need to learn from us is the value of appreciating different ideologies, the values of political participation, patriotism. They are written very well in Article 10 of the Constitution, but the practicalities are very different. So I think it's important for us to begin to inculcate this value in young people, including young people in Nyanza as well.
Thank you so much, Daniel. We realize that there are some challenges preventing youth participation in politics. And as a young person, I think I would love that in this particular session, we really iron out some of the challenges that are preventing youth participation in politics. And as Daniel and a political commentator, do you think Kenyan political parties are offering enough support to allow youth participation in politics? And if that is the case, what are some of the opportunities in youth participation in politics?
Well, I hold the view that there are other, few political parties who are giving space, for young people, in my own opinion, to hone their leadership and their political leadership skills. But that is, dismally documented. We can't really confidently trace that or track that and, get it out as real. I can refer you to, there's a survey that was done by the Center for Multi-Party Democracy in 2015 on the level of youth and women political participation in these political parties. And the finding was that young people and women, their participation are only in youth leagues and women leagues. In a few cases, some of them who occupy the positions in, for example, the party management system or the national, delegates conference or those hierarchy levels of political parties do not have a say. They don't have a decision. Their veto, their power, actually their decision do not count. So I think for us as young people, the opportunity that we have right now reports, it documents there is a number of political parties that are being formed, as we speak. But even as the new political parties are
Daniel, your microphone is muted. Oh, we lost Daniel. Daniel, your microphone is muted. Yes, go ahead. I think it is now okay.
Yeah. So that's what I say. It's important that we understand how even in the formation of these new political parties, who makes decisions? Because unless we'll come back to this discussion and always ask, why are we against young people in us? That is the insight that I would actually provide moving forward.
Thank you so much. Just before we get to the last bit of it, as you prepare to give us your motivation to other youths aspiring to actively participate in politics, allow me to recognize the presence of Maurice Opio Adoyo. Maurice is the director to formerly NIC Bank, now NCBA. Maurice, if you can hear me, just say hi as we continue. Maurice, are you there? Could be it's not there. Daniel, as you wrap up, as a young politician, what is your motivation to other youths aspiring to actively participate in politics?
Well, the motivation is here that we are young people, we are vibrant, and as Betty also put it before, is like we have the tendency to explore and find information here and there, be very active in these spaces. So I think the potential that comes with the agility, the strength, being industrious among as young people, being explorable, that in itself gives us the advantage of trying to use the numerical numbers that we have to begin to invade these political spaces that are available right now. It is a contradiction, for example, that the most population, the most constituency of young people who are 70% of of the population are actually the ones that are extremely secluded or extremely excluded from political participation. It's quite difficult to understand how this has juxtaposed itself through and through. So I think the motivation moving forward is, there are a number of political discourses that are going on right now that young people can give their input to. One of the discourses that, people should begin to give their input to. There's a discussion about the constitutional change right now. And I am actually seeing a number of caucuses discussing how they would present their view to these caucuses in these committees. But young people are, once in a while I see from caucuses, but it's not really active. The women are really organized in terms of presenting their view of what should be included in case the country is going through a constitutional referendum. Really, the creativity that comes within the social media space, we are very privileged in this generation, or compared for our voices to be heard, actually had to get, the mainstream media. We actually had to be covered in the newspaper. But right now, the space of social media and the incoming of citizen journalism have made it easy, even for us to focus and discuss issues on WhatsApp, on Facebook, and on Twitter, and get these important issues that us. It takes some you know your network could already provide an advantage to you. Because my believing of the network is that being derived from a membership of different constituencies that constitute Homa Bay County, that in itself already provide a political platform for mobilization, social mobilization, political mobilization. And that, if taken care of, is able to surprise you because already there is an organization of that movement. So I think, George, those are some of the inspiration that I would actually see moving forward from young people in not only in Homa Bay County, but at large, in terms of how then do you leverage um, through to make it impactful in the political system.
Thank you so much, Daniel. I call you Honorable Daniel. I know that is a name that we always share. I want to also emphasize that the youths who are here, you have now heard that you have got a political space. It is your time to take the space and be cognitive of your position. Know that youth is something that will come and go. Thank you so much, Daniel. Just before we get to the next speaker, I think as time, it is around 7:15, and those who are asking questions, we are going to have a very good interactive sessions for the Q&A. Over to you, Secretary General, and as you conclude with the Otieno Paul Peter, I will request that you also give Mr. Owili some time also to talk to the youth, since that is so much in youth engagement, in civic engagement. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Allow me recognize the presence of Mr. Matthew Owili. We are going to really give him time to also share with us. That will come shortly after presentation by Otieno Paul Peter. I don't know, he was away for at some point. I don't know if he's back. Mr. Otieno Paul Peter, are you back?
I've been in throughout.
Okay, it's now your turn. And just before I take the stage with you, I can see now people like Gordon Otieno, Roger Somolo, Ronald Kobote, Jael. Please just hold on with your questions. We have marked those with the questions, and we are really going to give you time to ask your questions. So just bear with us. We go as per the schedule. There is that time. Don't worry, just keep tuned. Now, Mr. Otieno Paul Peter.
Yes.
Now that we are discussing about the youth, and
yes.
this discussion is maybe spearheaded by Homa Bay County Youth Network. There is this perception. I don't know whether it's a perception, but I know today from you, I'm going to know whether it is a perception or a reality that Luos were not born for business. What is your view on this?
Yeah,
Please.
that's the first mistake. You see, business doesn't choose your ethnicity, doesn't choose your color or race. Business generally is about interest. I have been in business long enough. I remember I first did my first business in class 6, and that is when they introduced me to the concept of business. I did the unadulterated 844, where they were introducing you to business in class 6. And they started asking, what is business education? All sorts of things. What is money? I was so excited about that idea. So I've learned that I request that people who are not listening would mute so that we have yes.
Okay, now.
So so I was moving on. So I've learned that business doesn't choose. We have many Luos who've done big businesses all over. We have other people from different other communities who've done businesses. So the fallacy that business is not meant for Luos or something like that is a lie. Yes.
How do you relate your deconstruction of that statement with maybe okay in how do you relate it to the number of lures you have met in business? Because you see, what we are told back at home, or what we have heard, is that business biashara iko na wenyewe.
So let me say a few things about this. One, some of the things we may need to change is our perception. You know, when we are growing up back in our communities, what happens is we view business as something that is second rate. First, we are looking for jobs. We want to qualify for college, for universities, then we start looking for jobs. And our parents also, that is what they've known throughout. So that is what distorts that philosophy. You see, if my parents did not engage in any business, there is less likelihood that I will, except if there is something that has motivated me. Like my case was a motivation from the same people. Let me give you a good example. When I was in the University of Nairobi, shortly after finishing, I asked a friend of mine, is there anybody, she's from Meru, is there anybody in your family who is employed? She said, no, I'm the first one. She did computer science. She's the first one to be employed. But besides employment, she does lots of other things, trading on various other things. Now, in our culture, most of the times you realize that people are employed and they are always looking for employment. My dad, for example, was a primary school teacher. But that is what motivated me. Every other time we didn't have money. My dad didn't have money. He could not even afford to pay my school fees. And most times they would borrow things and saying, at the end of the month, we will pay. Another thing is I could see around the people who are old enough, who had retired, would say, well, when I was working, I helped so many people get jobs. Now nobody is helping me. And they were living a miserable life. Personally, that alone informed me that I don't want to be in a situation where I wait for the end of the month. So everyone can do business, and we just need to find a reason to be in it. By the way, I advise, if as much as we can, the youth should start taking part in business. Let me tell you one thing, the truth of the matter, even these politicians, if you want to be electable, you will need to have some money. And that money cannot be from employment. And the reason our Luo Nyanza is behind is because most people are broke. I don't want to say poor, but that is the fact. So nobody wants to follow you if you have nothing much to give. And our politics has been corrupted to the extent that the candidate literally buys the voters. You see, so the reason for that is we want to depend on some employment. We want to depend on just politicians. We want to depend on these other people. Why can't we create wealth? Why can't we become people who are independent? Nobody threatens you with any sacking. You can take care of your customers, choose a business, get involved, take care of your customers, just know what you need to do. You will be much more independent. Sorry to say, but some politicians don't even want you to be that capable. They don't want you to be independent because somewhat you will realize that you really don't need them. So it's good to know that each and every one of us are gifted in a particular way, and we can venture in business. The philosophy that Lewis can't is a lie. That's just the way it is. All of us go to school, learn businesses. All of us can practice this and learn from experiences. All of us can read the books that have been published by the people who've succeeded in business. We can go to the next question.
Okay, thank you, thank you. Now, alongside your deconstruction to the perception that those were not born for business, what are some of the factors that prevent young people from participating in business, and how can such factors be addressed?
Thank you. There are a number of factors, and as I've mentioned, there is interest. I remember back in secondary school, when I dropped out of school. By the way, I finished my primary school in 95. In 1996, I was outside school for that whole year. I joined school the following year, 1997, and I joined towards the end of term one, and I was in, out, in, out, in, out. Then Form 3, I didn't study. I went back in Form 4. But we were doing a set book called The Burdens. And in that book, there was a quote that poverty is the best incentive to creativity. I was selling sweets. I was hawking sweets in our town, Kindube. A friend of mine reminded me that statement. Poverty is the best incentive to creativity. The question is, do we have interest? Do we have incentive to get started in business? Most young people think of business, as I said, as a second option. If I don't get a job, I will look for something else I can do and something like that. Always looking for a cause, looking for something else, looking for to be engaged while we have the capacity. So the first thing is interest. Let's have interest in business. The moment we develop interest, and the other thing that affects us is what we just talked about, our upbringing. If you tell, I loved this statement. If you asked Kibaki during his time, his occupation, he won't say, I'm the president of Kenya or I'm a politician. He says, I'm a businessman. Utasikia Ruto akisema, I'm a farmer. Things like that. Most of us don't want to relate with such titles. We want these titles of, I'm an accountant, I'm the MD of this bank, I'm an engineer, I'm all sorts of things. Not knowing so many people have been sacked from employment. They are at a desperate state. So we must find a motivation to get started. Another one is idea. Most people think that they can't start a business because they don't have capital. Somebody translated capital to mean kaput, meaning something to do with brain. You lack brain. The idea is we don't have an idea how to start a business or what sort of business can I venture in. We must start looking for ideas. The moment we get an idea, remember, an idea is much, much bigger than any other capital you can think about. You develop an idea very well, you will be able to venture in a business. And all these people, I've always said, and I've always seen it, you people have seen it, most of our politicians who are not engaged in any other business, the moment they become unelectable, their life gets very desperate because they have nothing else to fall back to except their salaries. And they are some of the most suffering, some of the brokest people. You get some other people like Mudavadi is not elected, he's running his own businesses. What's built Raila? Because he's got companies, and UDM is another company. The other thing is skill. Yes, if I said that, it's because I mean it. I can, as you say, deconstruct. The other thing is skill. Most of us have technical skill, but we don't see this technical skill and find a way to make it business. I'll give you a good example. I have in this country, and more so in Nairobi, if you get the best tailor, that is a Luo. If you get the best welder, that is a Luo. If you get the best carpenter, that is a Luo. But let me tell you, these guys don't go look for business. They want somebody else to go look for business. Another lady maybe from Kiambu will go to EPZ, get orders for 1,000 overalls or something, and then come to them and hire them, hire a number of them. Then my brother will be very happy that he's the best in doing this. So he's hired, he's being given a small portion of the money. The lady maybe got 3 million, yeah, at a 300,000. He's very happy, just going to drink and maybe add another wife. You see, such like things. We need to be business minded over and above our technical expertise. It is not people who know how to do it. It is people who know why it needs to be done, who make it in life. I have a brother who is a welder. I've always told him, register a business and then go look for business. You don't have to be the one welding. Even if they are not healthy for your eyes, it's you who's chosen to do that. But it'd rather be picked with by somebody and go to Nyeri and construct a market there and be given some small money, or sometimes not even given at all, then comes to complain. We must change from just the technical skills to business skills, because it is the person who brings the business who makes the money. It is not the technician who makes that thing that makes the money. The other thing is we don't have a vision for ourselves. Most times our goal is, if so and so becomes maybe head of this company, or gets promoted to this person, or gets this seat of MCA or MP, we will get some relief. We will get some positions in county, in the government, in whatever. And we think that is our winning strategy. Everyone must have a winning strategy, and you must think beyond just employment. You must think in terms of, if something happens, if I don't have a job today, how will I survive? How will my family survive, and things like that. So we must develop an idea of what we want to become. How do we see ourselves in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years, and something like that. When I was leaving college, by the way, when I came to Nairobi, I knew I was lucky to pass exams. And I knew that I'm coming to Nairobi not to study, but to get an opportunity to do business. I joined the university and started looking for what to do. I practiced kinyozi, I couldn't do much in that. And then I ventured into computer-related services. But why was I doing that? So that I could survive in the university. I did not depend on anybody to send me any pocket money. Nobody ever did. I don't even know the meaning of that. But I knew I must do something. So I had a motivation. After that, I realized I could not just set up because it required some money, goodwill, or whatever. So I chose to go to work for a short time. I didn't want to work for 5 years. So what am I talking about? Vision. I had something that within 5 years, I'll be out of employment, and I retired in 2010, October. I've never been employed again. Oh, actually, not October, August 5th. That's over 10 years ago. And today, I don't depend on any other job. I don't depend on any other person. The idea is, do we have a vision of what we want to become? Then the other thing is mentorship. Mentorship. Most of us, our mentors are politicians. Our mentors are people who are also not in business. Remember, somebody can have multiple mentors. You can have, if you want to venture in politics, not everyone should be in politics. And I believe that is part of our drawback. We are too much passionate about politics. But if we want to be in business, we must look for mentors in business. We must look for books to read. Most of us don't read books except newspapers and watch news. We don't watch anything else. and we use our bundle on Facebook and things like that that don't build a lot of our capacity in business. So we must look for mentors who can work with us. We must learn business. We must read the right books. I would recommend any one of us here, if you're serious, go start reading Think and Grow Rich. There is a reason it's called Think and Grow Rich, but not Work Hard and Grow Rich or Join Politics and Grow Rich. It's called Think and Grow Rich. There is The Richest Man in Babylon. It's a very nice small book. Will be able to build you. There is The Rich Dad, Poor Dad. There is The Cash Flow Quadrant. All these are very good books that will start you on the way. You will build a business. Then the other thing is we must be ready to start small. Most of us want to start it big. I was talking to my younger brother, he's in Kisumu, and was talking about, you want where you also have a rotating seat. Yeah. People knock your office. You tell somebody, no, if you want to talk to me, book an appointment, come to my office. We must learn to start small. Every venture starts small, then grows. The Tuskies that we have today started small. The Nakumat that ended up collapsing politically also started small. All of them start small. The Equity that we have today started as some circle in Muranga. All these things started small, and we must start small, but with a vision. And the other thing is, we must embrace each other and learn from each other, not bringing each other down. That one will be able to help us. We must change, we must rewrite the culture of business and things like that, so that even as we are bringing up our children, we tell them why it's important to be independent, why it's important to learn and participate in business. All of us, I say, and I repeat, all of us can and should participate in business. You will be much happier when you don't have to call somebody to help you look for a job, and you will be able to earn much more. I kept asking myself, why should I wait for 30 days or 31 days to earn money while I spend every day? I've been asking people, how many times do you spend in a month? Infinite number of times, they can't count. How many times do you earn? Maybe once or 0 times. Where is the problem? We must learn to earn every day or every other as often as possible, so that we can also have the capacity to spend. That is it for now. Thank you. You can ask another question.
Well, before maybe you have time to give your motivation, and in consideration of a number of factors that hinder youth participation in business, do you think the government has done enough to influence youth participation in business? And what are some of the youth-friendly programs or opportunities by the government to influence youth participation in business?
I've worked with various youths from different parts of the country, and I've learned that they take advantage of what the government has put in place. There is that agapo thing for special category group, for people who want to participate in tenders. But to me, the most important thing is, remember, you are not going to be youth forever. The most important thing is that registration of business has become very easy. In fact, you can register a company in a short while and start building your own brand. So there is that element of, you can register a business, and you can even secure loans and things like that. They've always been there, but I've realized a few times when I'm discussing with people this at home, they tell you, oh, we picked some loan, and you serikali, you don't have to return. People are just meddling with it across. So the government has done enough, in my view, and they could do more. More so, the only aspect I'd like them to do a little more is with respect to online working, which has opened a big space where you can run business that is global from the comfort of your home, as long as you have internet. There is still not much regulation with respect to that at the moment. And the last time we discussed this with the Ministry of ICT, they were putting some policies in place. And that is good enough. Remember, the same environment. At one point, yeah, during the Kibaki's time, I asked some youth that in 2013, in 2003, when Kibaki started being president, up to 2013 when he left, uh, during that period of time, so many other people became millionaires and so many other people grew in businesses. Did they choose where, because these were people from different parts of the country, did they have very different advantages depending on where they were coming from? No. Was the political atmosphere the same? Yes. Politics was the same, weather was the same, everything else was the same. But some people took advantage of what is there, some people didn't take advantage of what is there. So the government has done enough. And the other thing is security, this political stability that brings in security, including the handshake. Before that handshake, people were not able to participate, to do business freely. There were riots and all sorts of things. With stable politics, that's why many people come to Kenya. They want to set up businesses in Kenya, whether they are from the East or from West or from different parts of Africa. They want to set up business in Kenya so that they can run their businesses. Of course, there are higher taxes in Kenya, but still the environment is able to sustain it. So in my view, there is nothing we need to blame the government about, because those policies work across the board. Only that most of our youth don't take advantage of them. I've seen people from other parts take advantage of them. Right now, I'm not a youth, so I can't qualify for most of them. Thank you. Yes? Is Felix there?
Felix, are you there?
Yes, Amir. Thank you, Mr. Otieno Paul Peter. What is your motivation to the youth or to the participants who may be thinking to start up some businesses, but have been fearing for some of the hindrances that you have listed?
One is, if you are not in business, you better start now. The earlier you start in business, the better. Whether you are in employment or not, start some business, whether by the side or the main thing for you. It's important. This is one thing I learned in life. It is what you do in that extra time that will make you rich. We must all aspire to become wealthy and economically stable. If we don't aspire for that, we will be ruled forever. So start a business, start now. Fear of failure is actually a big stumbling block to many people. But remember that if you are not willing to fail, then you will not succeed. You must be willing to fail, try and fail, try and fail. Today, I'm running 3 businesses, but it's because I've also failed in the previous ones. The first business which I started in class 6, it collapsed after a couple of months. I was in a Sumbi game, God Marera, but it collapsed because I was moving to a different location. Another business which I started where I was selling, where I was hooking things in Kindu Bay, collapsed because of a number of other circumstances, and the same thing about the business I was running in the university. So today, through those failures, I've been able to learn a lot of other things, and I keep reading, I keep firing myself. So wherever you are, please get started. Today, I'm working with another old mzee who has worked up to retirement, but because he did not have a business anywhere, he has to get started. But he's finding it so hard because he's in his 60s, I think so. So if he had started earlier, he would be much better placed today, because I provide mentorships. I provide hosting services. I provide, I put businesses online, but I also provide mentorship, building people from conceiving idea of business all the way to letting the business run. But it's easier when you start when you are young. So don't waste any time. If you've been thinking about it, jump in before you are ready. Just get started. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That is a very powerful one. If you are not in any business, start now. There is no right time. Now, I want to thank all the speakers for the wonderful presentation. Before we get into the Q&A session, With your permission, Mr. Chair, allow me invite Mr. Matthew Zowili to have a minute or two to also share a piece with us. Welcome, Mr. Matthews.
Thank you, Felix. And thank you, team, for this opportunity. I was invited into this meeting by George Kennedy, and I also tried to share. I don't know why the many youths have not really attended, but I want to say that I've known Nokoyon for a short while, but I've realized it's a good organization that we can work along with. My name is Matthews. I'm Youth Empowerment and Advocacy Coordinator for ICAD. ICAD is Africa Inland Child and Community Agency for Development, and where we have got into contact with the Homa Bay County Youth Network is our Civic Engagement Alliance project. I realized this organization is very strong in matters lobby and advocacy. And so that is how I got to know them. And I want to tell the Hokoyon members that, you know, how I got to know you is through the memorandum that you are able to submit to the county assembly on the 2020-2021 budget. It was a nice work. And so I want to congratulate all the minds that put, you know, together a lot of work into that document. That was a very good work. And it's something that we are still following up with the county assembly to see that, you know, they act on whatever you did. I don't think the time is so much past. So now, Ms. President, I picked on one challenge from you that organizations like Okoyon need to find mentor organizations. And I want to share that, George, from tomorrow as we are engaging, let's see how we can work together on a formal, you know, a formal thing so that it's not just me and George, but it should be ICAD Civic Engagement Alliance and Homa Bay County Youth Network so that we see what can we do together as a team, because these community organizations will remain, but NGOs, we have limited time and we will phase out and leave the community there. So whatever we do with you right away is what will live. Thank you to all the other speakers. I've learned a lot and I will continue joining, and we'll see what we can do in future endeavors of this kind. Thank you so much, Felix.
Thank you so much, Mr. Matthews. Now, here is the time for questions. And by just show of hands, anybody with a question to anyone, any speaker that is, please feel free. Time is now here with us.
Just before we even get to the Q&A, Abad Matthews says that is still joining. Matthews, thank you so much for accepting Okoyon and accepting to be our mentor. I would also wish to say that, Matthews, we have another very big invitation for the Youth Days, so be prepared. Over to you, Felix.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Felix, you can also see. Sorry, Felix. Yes. I would also want to register as a member of Hokoyon. So please, you let me know. So.
Okay, that is. I'll address that. Now, questions I can see, Mr. Chair, if you allow me, let us start. I can see Ronald.
You're allowed.
Ronald, please. Ronald.
Ronald is on mute.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Ronald Bote. I want to say I'm very much glad to be here basically, the question I had asked through the message, and Ms. President did really answer that. One thing I would also want to maybe get clarification on, and I've heard you mentioning that, is how to get how to be a member. I remember I also got invitation by one brother, the brother who has been mentioned some few minutes ago, and I'm glad to be here. Thank you so much.
Very well. I can see Nicholas.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Felix. By name, I'm Nicholas Ongolo from Dewa sub-county. I believe you people can hear me.
Yes.
Kindly
Yes,
confirm
please
if you can.
proceed.
Okay, thank you so much, Ms. President Betty Adera, Daniel Orogo, who is a political analyst, and Peter, who is focusing on areas of business. So my first question had been answered by Betty Adera. It was on the implication of the challenges that we face when registering a foundation, and also the areas of opportunity for running such a program. That had been answered. So my question now goes to Peter, where I would like to ask Peter the issue of capital for a business entity. You realize that most young people have got the idea of running or managing a business, but the challenge is, how do they get the starting capital? You know, you can register as many business entities as you can, but you end up doing nothing with all these entities. Which steps can one make if you are not in formal employment to be able to raise this capital and to be able to run this business successfully? Thank you.
Mr. Otieno Paul Peter.
Okay, thank you. So, you know, raising capital is part of business, and one of the skills that a business person needs to learn is selling, which is raising capital. So there is what we call pitching. You need to develop a good idea that you think needs funds that you can't raise if you think you cannot raise them from your well-wishers or savings or something. Then you must develop a pitch that you can present to potential investors in your business. Now, there are various ways. I will refer, well, I know nowadays they don't do that in class 6, but in class 6, we learned about the sources of capital. One is savings, and that's why I said you start small. For example, let's say somebody wants to run a business in what? You want to, at one point in Kindu Bay, I realized that we don't have enough grains. Most times we were lacking in maize. We had to depend on Kisis bringing them down. And I was thinking, how about if I start supplying this? The only thing that stopped me was I left Kindu Bay before I joined the university. But that was my next thing. And how do I get started? I start by getting to know how much is it going to require and what is the least quantity I can start with. Those days, I think getting a sack was around probably 1,000 or something. I could do my little businesses and raise that money and get started in that. So you better know, one, how much capital does it require? What is the minimum I can start with? Then demonstrate that capacity that you can start small, use that to plow back and grow. Our biggest problem usually is we start a business, but we want to eat it. We want to eat from it, even as it's starting. We need to put all these factors into consideration. The other thing is, if we can't get it funded from our own savings, we look for our network, and that's why we say your network determines your net worth. Who are the people who are close to you who can help you raise the money? And this will mean that they have faith in you, that if they give you that money, you will be able to work with it well and return. And this can only be demonstrated if we've run a few other things and we can see, do you have chicken? How many are they? Can you sell some? Do you have goats? Do you have you translated these goats maybe to cows? Do you have a piece of land? But you know, some of us, we wait until we are 50 or 60, then we start looking for a piece of land to buy. Well, some of us are blessed because maybe you are inheriting from your parents. Somebody like me, we didn't even have a piece of land I've got to buy. So we don't need to wait. We need to put in savings. Most of us don't operate bank accounts. We need to know how to have a bank account, save for our business, share our vision with other people, look for potential investors who might be interested in our business idea. They will also help us to evaluate whether it's something that can work. And the other thing is working with mentors. Mentors will be able to assist you locate where you can get money. Then there is the youth fund. That is where the government comes in. There are banks. If you've been banking with a bank, they will be able to check your money, your saving culture, your money management culture, how much money comes in and how much goes out. Miss President Betty just talked about whenever you go to people, they will want your documents. That's why you need some documentation. You need to be seen to be receiving something. So you don't start with something big and then you expect somebody to fund it. No, they won't. You must have some demonstration that you've been having some diligence. And that's why you start small. Start with something small so that you can graduate to something big. That's the way it works. And it's the way it's always worked for me. And most times, by the way, all my businesses, there is no business I ever started with more than 10,000. I've always started with less money and they grow to more than that.
Well, thank you for that elaborate answer. Roger Somolo, your hand is up, but as you prepare to maybe ask your question.
Sorry, I'm leaving for another meeting. Maybe you allow me and ask, then I'll follow up for the answers because I want to be able to get the answers being that I'm joining another meeting.
I hope you're not rushing to watch.
Okay, kindly proceed.
Just allow me ask. Can I continue?
Yes, proceed, Rogers.
I'll just come to an area of interest, and this will go. Currently, we are seeing high cases of teenage pregnancy in the rise, and maybe just to get to understand from her, basically being that she is a specialist from that area, who is to blame for the rising cases of teenage pregnancy? And are you getting me?
Yes.
Yes, I got that.
The question is, who is to blame for high cases of teenage pregnancy that are rising? And then maybe to the other panelists, I really wish if you talk of partnership, because when you are talking of businesses and maybe starting a business, we are failing to talk of partnerships and maybe come up with ways whereby those people who are talking of mentorship, you can maybe partner with other people who are willing to start a business, work with them into businesses. And lastly, in matters to politics and young people fear politics because of issues to do with handouts. What do you have to say about handouts and issues to do with maybe you bribe or you buy? That's how you call it. Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks for the questions. You said you'll not have time to wait for the answers. But before I give Ms. President an opportunity to maybe answer you, allow me to recognize the presence of Victor Otieno Juma of Ramogi FM, who has joined the meeting. Maybe I'll give him 2 minutes before we conclude to say a word, if he'll still be around. Madam Betty, please answer Rogers.
Thank you very much for that question. However, if we continue with the narrative of who is to blame, then I think we are going to stay here the whole night, because then are you going to say we are going to blame all the men? We're going to blame all the girls. We are going to blame the government. we're going to blame the chief, we're going to blame the parents, then technically we're blaming everybody. But perhaps I would rather we paraphrase that question respectfully, though, that what are the root causes of this current disaster that we're experiencing in the country? What can be done and by who? So from where I sit, I think we as a people have gone through systemic poverty, and poverty that continues to cycle, that continues to be inherited from one generation to another unabatedly. And we are beginning to see that now our young girls, from wherever they're coming from, whether rural or urban, have needs, because as human being, they must have needs. But then the opportunities to meet those needs is what? She's only left with one option: to pat her legs to some man somewhere, to get 20 shillings, to get 100 shillings, to get sanitary towels, to get food, to get whatever. And the COVID-19, the global pandemic, is also not helping. Secondly, we have a perennial problem of, as generations continue to advance, parents are relegating the duty of educating their own children, both boys and girls, to the church. They're leaving that role to the teachers. They're leaving that role to the chief. They're leaving that role to the media. They're leaving that role to the phone, to the internet, and all that. And we know that some of these places where young people go to get information, it's not necessarily that they're getting the correct and accurate and consistent information. They could also be getting misinformation, in the process. So girls grow not knowing the kind of changes happening in their bodies. Boys grow up not fully understanding the changes, that's happening in their bodies. And as they get into teenage, into puberty, when all the hormones are running wild, from both boys and girls, and being young people and youth, the experimenting nature of them, before you know it, a pregnancy has occurred. And by the way, with every pregnancy, there's always an equal measure of opportunity or chance for HIV infection to come in, and also other STIs, sexually transmitted infections to come in. So one girl might be dealing with several issues rather than just the pregnancy itself. Then, of course, third, there's a lot of violence, sexual violence, sexual abuse that is going around. And again, we are seeing a spike of that within the COVID-19 period, where people are, locked up, in homes. You can't move around the way you want. Stress levels are high. And of course, the needs of parents to go out and look for food, or how to, sustain their families, and no one is really keeping an eye, and all that. So for me, I'd rather say, can we get to the deep and root cause of all this? Because teenage pregnancy is not new. It is something that has been with us for years, for decades. But as years go by, generations go by, we are seeing a worrying trend. The proportions are now erratic. And of course, COVID-19 is not helping. So what can be done? I think a couple of things need to be done that then would involve everyone. Parents have to take up their full responsibility, because this is your child. First and foremost, this is your child before this child becomes a child of the government. What is your role then as a parent? To continue speaking to your child, to educate, let your child, your son and your daughter, hear information around puberty and how their bodies, are changing from you, rather than from internet or from a friend who is just as misinformed. Let us ensure that the household community level environment is safe, for girls and boys, at the same time, so that we see a reduction or elimination, of all forms of sexual and gender-based violence. Now, to the girls themselves, they need to be empowered, and they need to know that when you're 8 years old, 9 years old upwards, you need to start figuring out a sense of responsibility for yourself and for your life. I want to believe that many parents who tell their daughters, nisikuone pale, nisikuone ukienda where, nisikuone. But the minute the parent turns, their face and, to something else, msichana nayo ndio huyo, amesha ended. Of course, the outcomes are like that. The boys also need to be taught to figure out and fully understand that for every action you take, there's an equal and corresponding measure of responsibility. And if you make somebody's daughter pregnant, remember you're a father, whether you're 14, 15, 20, or 30, you are a father and you need to own up. You need to own up to that. We need to strengthen systems that would encourage girls to go back to school so that pregnancy in itself should not necessarily mean the end of education for a girl. So parents have a responsibility. The girls themselves have a responsibility. The boys and men have a responsibility. In fact, I'm beginning to think that the narrative now should be, instead of the news reading 4,000 girls impregnated, no, the news should start reading 2,000 boys and men impregnated girls, so that again, we shift this focus and blame where it really is, because it takes two. It takes a man and a woman, a boy and a girl, to come together sexually, for a pregnancy to occur, whether it is through violence or willingly or through consent. It doesn't really matter, but a pregnancy has occurred and a girl's education and life therefore is stopped. Of course, government also at all levels, county and national, have a responsibility too. Civil society, the faith-based organizations, private sector, everybody has a responsibility to be more well-meaning to each other. If you see your child, your neighbor's daughter, your neighbor's son, doing things that could land them in trouble, raise these issues respectfully, with their parents and figure out ways in which they can be done. And of course, government to make sure that every girl does not stop going to school just because she's pregnant, and that make it easier, for them to go back and be readmitted back to school after, they give. But the policies are there, but the implementation and operationalization, of those policies at household level, community level with stigma, and also at the same school level, for the same stigma reasons, make many girls not to go back to school in spite of the fact that that the policy is there. But from where we are going, COVID-19 appears to be something that will be with us, for a while. I don't see it going away, anytime soon. And if the argument is that it's because of COVID, the restrictions that have been put, that is making all these, pregnancy incidences to go up, then I think as a community, we are really, really in for, a big shock. And the time is now for everybody, men, boys, girls, women, to come out and just say, hey, enough is enough. We gotta do something about this.
That's a very good one. I think, Madam Betty, we will look for you anytime soon for a specific topic, teenage pregnancy, because it's a topic that really needs time.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think according to our schedule, we should be concluding, but it will be so unfair of us if I don't follow up with the Gordon Otieno, Ronald Kobote, and Jael. Ronald got the opportunity. Jael and Godwin. Jael and Godwin, if you are in, please, you can put across your questions. I can see Jael is still in. Okay, that is that. Now, ladies and gentlemen, Chair, if you allow me, I'll give the speakers, our guests, that is, at least 30 seconds each to share their closing remarks before we conclude, please.
Very well.
Thank you very much. Okay, ladies first. I'll start with Madam Betty.
Thank you very much, the organizers of this webinar, for the opportunity to come and speak to you all and to meet my fellow panelists. And I hope this is just the beginning of long-term engagement so that we all grow together and see the Homa Bay Youth Homa Bay County Youth Network be where it really ought to be. As a way of concluding, I'd just like to say that, look, community action, grassroots action aimed at bringing development at that level, political engagement and business are all one and the same thing, just have different faces. They need each other and need to have women and men, as well as young people and even older ones, take their rightful places. To young people out there under the command of my voice tonight, your time is now. Your time is now to come out and show us what you're made of in terms of leadership, in business leadership, in politics leadership, in community action. We rely on you and we want to help you. We want to hold your hand wherever we can, so that together all of us move forward higher, stronger together forever. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Daniel, if you are in. Daniel,
I think, left for another meeting.
Okay. Mr. Otieno Paul Peter, your closing remark.
Yeah, I want to say that whether you think you can or you can't, either way you're right. If you think you can do business, you will be able to do it. If you think you can't, it doesn't matter what we do or what any person will do, because you will not be able to do it. It all begins in your mind. Number two, ask, and it shall be given you. Seek, you shall find. Knock, and the door shall be opened. You must learn to ask long enough, seek long enough, and knock long enough. The scripture doesn't say ask 3 times or then quit. No. Number 3, we've learned that persistence is what will make the difference. Napoleon Hill says, old man failure is always on the path to success, waiting for those who fail the persistence test. In business is not a joke. It's not like employment, you just report and go back. And that's why most of us love jobs, because there is no accountability. So you must be patient enough, you must be persistent enough to learn, because it's a different paradigm of its own. So persistence, we must change our minds and choose whether we want to believe or not believe. If you think of the reasons you can't do it, you will get very many of them, but you only need one reason why you can't. And one of those reasons could be, if so and so can do it, perhaps I can do it much better. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much to all our guests. And there are some questions popping up on our screens. I really urge that we respond to them before we leave. We are about to conclude. We are 10 minutes late, and what remains is not going to take more than 5 minutes. So I'm kindly requesting that we respond to those questions. Then I'll give the vote of thanks on behalf of Homa Bay County Youth Network. Okay, thereafter invite the chairperson to close it up for us. As I started, maybe someone noted, my name is Felix Orwa. I come from Suba North, Lambwe Ward. Suba North is the former Mbita constituency. I am the Secretary General of Homa Bay County Youth Network. I want to dearly thank our guests for setting their time for this meeting. I must also say to Mr. Otieno Paul Peter, a very big thank you. I came to you so late, it was late, and I came with 2 requests. That is one, to be part of the panel and also to host us. I'm grateful that you managed both, and I'll not shy to mention that you did not mention it throughout your talk, but I'll not shy to mention that this debate was hosted by Live Your Dreams. Live Your Dreams is a company or an organization that is headed by Mr. Otieno Paul Peter. We are very grateful. We are very grateful for for that.
Maybe
Now,
just to help you, I can say about Live Your Dream.
yes.
Yeah, thank you. Well, that's just me. But Live Your Dream, this is about Live Your Dream. Yeah. When I was in class 8, and after doing my class 8 and realized that most of the people who are with me in class were not proceeding to secondary level, I told myself, I realized that Kenya is losing so many brains due to school fees. And then I realized that most people were written off. The moment you are not able to go to secondary school, that was the end of the story. And something inspired me that when I grow up, one thing I want to do is to find this knowledge that makes some people more successful, whether they are schooled or not, so that I can help people to learn this. And that's what informed Live Your Dream. It's a company incorporated in 2015, and it does trainings and business consultancy, soft skills trainings, business related trainings. That's about Live Your Dream. And I'm the founder. Besides that, I also have ICT Gurus EA Limited, which does all ICT related things. And then I have a network marketing organization. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Then again, as our chair hinted before, we are planning to host a meeting, or rather a virtual discussion in commemoration of the International Youth Day, that is on 12th August. 12th August, it will be on a Wednesday. To our guests, please don't close for us the doors if we come knocking for that day. And also, if you can, if you know of another friend who can also be helpful to the youth, you can also suggest. And even among the participants, if you feel you have something you can share with the youth, we highly welcome that. Like Frederick Allo just shared what he thinks he can share with us. I have picked up that, and we will do a follow-up. Up to that point, I want to thank you all the participants, our panelists, and my co-moderator and chair, Honorable George Kennedy, as I hand over to the chairperson for a closing remark. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, members, for bearing with us up to this time. I hope you can hear me.
Yes.
Though Felix has given a vote of thanks, now mine is to thank you all, and I say that to our panelists and also other guests, I want to thank you so much, so much. Mr. Willie, thank you for identifying Okoyon, and thank you for your pieces of advice. I'm just very much happy. Now, we, the Homa Bay County Youth Network, call for partnerships and advice on our programs, being matters education, agriculture, environmental management and climate change, arts and sports, gender, governance and accountability, financial services, matters youth, and community mobilization and sensitization. Now, your participation tonight has greatly impacted on our future operations in realigning our service delivery. And I want to say that let God bless you so much, and let God bless Okoyon. Thank you so much. Even as you leave, let us see on how we can partner together so that we really, really make Homa Bay County a great county. Thank you so much. God bless you.
Now, even as we leave, Mr. Chair, sorry for interrupting. I did mention earlier that we had Victor Otieno Joma from Mugi FM with us. Apologies, he could not stay that longer, but So we did not give him time, as we indicated earlier. Please bear with us and bear with him. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
George, are you praying? There's no prayer to end it.
Kennedy.
Felix,
George,
next
I can
time.
hear. No. Due to public demand, you just close. You just close for us. By one of prayer.
Yes.
Let us pray. We thank you, Almighty Father, for all that you have done unto us. God, it is through thy mercy that you granted us this particular day. Father, we thank you for giving us these words that are going to make us realign our service delivery. Thank you for everyone here. Bless their units, bless their organizations, bless their businesses, and above all, God, tie us together that we may do things that will impact the lives of the youths in Homa Bay. Once more, we invoke thy presence to be with us till we meet again. For in Jesus' name we pray and believe. Amen.
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 I can still see the questions popping up. Please just take your 1 second answer, and they will really inform our progress in terms of these meetings. Yes, just click down at the right corner of your screen. You'll see something there if you missed it. As we do that, I also urge that those to the participants who are not members, let us. I encourage you. I encourage you to become part. If you come from Homa Bay County, there is much we can do if we come together. As I always say, there is nothing for youth without the youth. Nothing for us without us. Let us come together and do all we can. We will not be youths forever, but it will be very great to mention some of the achievements or some of the things done during our youth age. So becoming a member is easy. I shared a link. If you missed the link, you can just share your number either privately or publicly at the chat panel. I'll follow up with you and guide you accordingly. Our registration fee is 300 shillings. There is a pay bill number. If you go through that link, you'll be guided on how to pay. Yes. I can see maybe the questions are the survey questions.
Well, they were not able to all upload because I got this one and put it first. So editing, I didn't bring in the other questions. I
Okay.
think we ought to have put them all together at the first.
Okay, so that means we are free to end. Eh?
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. Have a blessed night.
Thank you.